Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name's Rodney.
My name is Zach.
Mate, glad to know that your name hasn't changed after all this time. How you doing, my friend?
It was accusatory. It's good. I'm.
What's accusatory about that?
Well, I think just me saying my name in that way. I don't know why I came in with that energy, but I'm feeling it today. I'm in an air-conditioned environment. This room is a little bit echoey, so hopefully it's not coming through on the recording. I'm trying to eat the mic like you did last recording. Actually, you sounded so good.
I think I said I was sick last time, and that was part of it. But I'm glad to know that you are doing your bit to destroy the environment by running the air conditioning max. I've got my heater maxed up, so between the two of us, we have really got this thing worked out. Sorry, Mother Earth. But there's not much we can do. We have to stay alive.
There's nothing we can do. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's not down to the individual.
Hey, listen, Formula One podcast. So it's been a few races. We've had the Canadian Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix, and the Austrian Grand Prix all in the rear vision mirror. But guess what? It's race week. It's the French Grand Prix this weekend. So we thought, what a great time to do a podcast, catch up a little bit on some stuff, talk about some big issues and some stories. But yeah, I'm glad you're well. Sorry it's been a little bit longer than expected since the last F1-y sort of show that we've done, but I've been really sick. With you know what, so there you go. That's it's on the table. I joined the Cool Kids Club. Now we're all good.
We swore that we would only record another episode once Ferrari had won back-to-back races. So here we are.
It's true. It's very true. There are some interesting records coming up in the Superquiz this week, which I'm going to be doing later. But we're going to cover a couple of quick, interesting stories, and we're going to get into the meaty stuff. So do you want to cover off some of these quickies, a couple of innies that we could cover off? You've got a little smattering of stories here, so I'm very happy if you want to pick one that piques your interest the most and kick us off with that.
Let's start with Bernie. I was actually thinking about whether it was worth talking about Bernie Eccelstone because I feel like he's been in the news recently he said some odd things about how he would take a bullet for Vladimir Putin. He said, he was in an interview and they were like, hey, Bernie, you got pretty close ties to Vlad. And he was like, yeah, we have the Grand Prix there. He gives away the trophies. It's amazing. And they're like, and you still consider yourself friends with him. He's like, I would take a bullet for that man. I was like, wow, he must have some skeletons in the closet on you for you to want to do that. But recently he's been charged with fraud of over £400 million in assets that he hasn't declared that were all on offshore accounts and all that kind of stuff.
Whoopsie-doopsie.
Whoopsie-doopsie indeed. But the reason I hesitated to bring this up on the show was I was like, do newer listeners even really know or newer Formula One fans even really know who Bernie Eccelstone is? Because he owned F1 up until 2017, and then Liberty Media bought the whole thing, or bought Formula One ostensibly. But he's getting pretty old, and he's pretty slimy his whole career as far as interesting business dealings. But I think sport's having its kind of global reckoning. I think FIFA's similar. I think that there's other international sporting organizations that we're kind of coming out of this phase of, well, it's all kind of private and not that big, and now they're like big public organizations with massive money flowing through them, and it's not just like all being kept by one or two people like it used to be. So I just thought this was a sign of maybe chickens coming home to roost. God, he's 91 years old as well.
I love it when there's a story of someone reinventing themselves, especially in their later life. I mean, this is all great, and he's gone from being an F1 mogul to being a tax dodge of the highest order. I love it.
Yeah, I also didn't know that his wife is the vice president of the FIA. I
wonder how she got that job. Is that how they met at work? So many people meet their partners at work, don't they?
They just met at work.
I want to talk next about, we're going to talk later about some not so great fans, but we should talk about some good fans, depending on your point of view. These climate zero oil protesters that were at the British Grand Prix. Zach, this is so much more closer to home, literally, for you.
Literally.
But the protesters about oil. Now, I don't know what they're worried about, because obviously Formula One is so good for the environment. Definitely not flying hundreds of thousands of bits of cargo and tonnage all around the world just to go on our silly little motor race. But, they have little batteries in them. Bzzz, so it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. They just have that little bit of electricity that comes from renewable energy sources. Actually, they charge up all the batteries before the race weekend from wind turbines out in the sea. And then they get dolphins to bring them in, so that's all environmentally friendly too. No, these are the zero oil protesters who are essentially saying, you can't just move to renewables slowly. You just need to cut oil out of your economy. And that will have, we shouldn't be using oil at all. Now, they were protesting at Silverstone and they ran onto the track, essentially. Yeah, they ran onto the track during the race to try to get attention. And as I'm going to say friend of the show, Luke Smith, one of the brilliant F1 reporters at Autosport and other outlets, had a good opinion piece about look, the cause might be noble, but they risked their own lives, they risked marshals' lives. They were pretty lucky because there was a red flag at the same time they basically ran out, and that meant that cars were slowing down or pulling in. It could have been really, really, really horrible. Look, I'm personally a big fan of direct action. However, the endangering of other people's lives and kind of putting other people in really traumatic circumstances is not okay. So, yeah, it was pretty extreme. But that's Formula One, I suppose. Pretty extreme.
That's Formula One for you. Is Zero Oil Protesters some kind of organised group? I don't know the name. Or is that just how they identified themselves that weekend?
I think
it's not like Extinction Rebellion or something.
It's something like that, but it's not Extinction Rebellion. It might be no oil or oil free. Okay. If you type those kinds of things into Google, though, you just get stuff from Neutrogena and the Body Shop. So,
while you're there, could you ship me some? That'd be great. Not sure. A bit of investigation needed, but either way, look. I mean, make your protest, make your point, but just keep it. Do it safely.
Stop oil.
Do it safely for you and other people.
Oil.
Just stop oil. There you go.
Just stop oil. All right, just stop it.
Just stop oil. Just stop oil. God.
Don't type in just stop oink like I did. Just stop oink. They're against loud pigs. No more oil and gas. Well, it says just stop oil. Why don't you just stop oil and gas? You obviously don't want to just stop oil. You want to stop gas as well. So, I mean, look, they've got good branding. You can register for a Zoom call. I don't know what you'd be chatting about on that call if you go to their website, Just Stop Oil or juststopoil.org. No, it's not. We can get them on the show.
There could be some Patreon bonus content. Yeah, we could have done that. Someone might interrupt the show now with a protest.
They're sitting in front of the mic.
Knock my mic. Yeah, exactly. With the black tape over their mouth holding up a sign. It's not going to work on a podcast, mate. Anyway, one last quick story is Honda toying with the idea of re-entering Formula One as a PU, that's an engine supplier for 2026. I mean, the timing is so interesting that Honda leaves, Red Bull starts to become very good, claims the Drivers' Championship in a race-winning car, probably the best that they've had in years and years and years. Honda must be looking at the sport right now and going, man, why did we leave? What were we thinking? And now they're like, we wouldn't mind getting back into some of that, please.
It feels like they do this all the time. They're like, we built this engine and it's just starting to achieve. But you know what? Hasn't happened
Honda
fast
just doesn't
enough.
know
Let's get out.
what's good for it.
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. So look, there's lots of people talking about 2026. We got Volkswagen Group, that's Porsche and Audi. We've got lots of other people as well.
It's all going off.
It's going off. We'll see.
But that's a story to watch, I think. And obviously, we've got 4 years, so we will keep you updated. Don't bother losing any sleep over that one. You can just keep the dial locked to Super License FM. Last bit of quick thing we're going to do is so true. Let me check my notes. Do I have anything on my phone that has been so true? Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Now, Tom Cruise was at the Silverstone Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix. I actually saw him, a week later, when I was at the tennis, at the ladies' final at Wimbledon. He was sitting in the royal box. I was in the same tennis court as Mr. Cruise. We shared a court.
I was in the same city.
I was in the same tennis court. I think that counts. I think that's something. We're at the same venue at the same time. That's pretty good. But he was chatting to Lewis after the race, and in the outdoor green room, I suppose it was, and Tom Cruise was there. I'm sure he just wandered over and was like, I can go into any room that I like. I'm Tom Cruise. They seem to be pretty pally and friendly, and they turn the mics on and up, and you can hear Tom Cruise is like, wow, you got third, it's like a win, right? And I thought that was so true. It is like a win. Yeah.
It's like a win. It's kind of like that. I see what you were going for, and you were real close. Only 2 away. So true, Tom Cruise.
Oh, so true, Tom Cruise.
Boy, I wish mine were of the caliber of Tom Cruise. Mine are all sticking the boot into the commentators this week, but I got 2 from the commentary. One from the British Grand Prix. This is the... so you might remember Leclerc was leading, then there was a safety car, and behind Leclerc, Sainz and Hamilton both pitted for soft tyres. And then on the radio, they said to Leclerc, Sainz and Hamilton behind on soft. And Leclerc said, that's going to be hard. And then Crofty said, it is. So true, Crofty. It is going to be hard. Leclerc just told us that. Well done. Thanks for your contribution. Then again at the Austrian Grand Prix, this time was Brundle's turn. Although it was sort of also Crofty's turn, if you know what I mean. Austrian Grand Prix, Leclerc goes from qualifying second on qualifying day to leading the race. Crofty asks, are things working out better for Ferrari today than yesterday? Martin Brundle responds, yes.
Yes.
So true. I think going from second to first is probably better.
It's so true.
So, good thing they're there to explain how this crazy sport works. So
God. So true. Look, they've got
enough
a hard
silliness.
job.
We should get
you've got
into
a lot to talk about over a whole race weekend, right?
They're the hardest men in Formula One, if you know what I'm saying. So there has been a lot going on. There's been lots to pick from. So we've picked the juiciest morsels to stew over. Do we want to start with this crash? Or should we take a crash course?
Let's take a crash course in this giant crash.
It's pretty scary.
This is it's lessened in my mind, but yeah, Zhou Guanyu.
True.
Zhou Guanyu. Wait, have I got it right? Zhou Guanyu.
Pretty.
Yeah, sorry.
You're so close.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's not a difficult thing to do. Remember a driver's name? Come on, Zach. Snap into it.
Zhou Guanyu crashed.
Zhou Guanyu.
You were crushing it.
I was cruising. I was crushing it. And luckily, he did not get crushed by what I have to say is one of the most insane Formula One crashes I've ever seen. To see him basically, because you've got the drivers take off the line and we get that low camera front on view. And then you tend to get the next view is kind of the sweeping T1, turn one. And then you suddenly just see in the background, because the cameras are focused on the first few cars, you just see this car slide sideways across, completely off the track. And I had to do a second take. I was like, pretty sure that car was upside down. I'm pretty sure. And you don't see cars upside down in Formula One very often anymore.
You don't.
Because there's not as much like... we had the double dick noses.
I was going to say the exact same thing. The old little upside down scoop.
Yeah, it just doesn't really happen that much anymore. So you really have to hit at a very odd angle. And then immediately, when you don't get any replays, you just, quite seriously.
That was exactly what happened to me. Because I was thinking either way, they're not going to show a replay until we know he's okay. But the longer it went on, I definitely had Romain Grosjean in my mind. Just I know what that could mean. Well, yeah, just because of that saying. But, hey, Romain. And it just goes to that saying that the longer that tension goes, and they try not to talk about it. They try and talk about anything other than the crash. They're like, there's a big crash, but also, the cars are driving fast. Look, left, right, turning. Oh, boy, this is so cool. But in your mind, everyone's thinking, fuck, I hope that guy's all right. But then eventually they got reports he was okay. He was walking around. I don't think he was in great shape, but he was okay. But a scary crash. And one that we haven't had one probably since Grosjean, a big crash like that.
Yeah, not where it's so kind of... first of all, how does it happen? And then second, they're like, where it's not just kind of, wow, that was big and scary. It's I have no idea how the person's going to be. Also, the fact that his car's upside down, skidding across, and he hits the tyre wall and kind of flips up almost into the fence, used every single safety precaution on the way, right? He flips over the tyres into the fence. But it's the halo saves you. The kitty litter, gravel, slows the car down enough so that at least when it kind of gets close to the tyres, it can skip up and then hits the fence. It's still a fair lick. have you seen the shots of the fan... fan view, and I'm because everyone's oh god, it's wow, that's a big crash. Oh my god, the car's heading straight towards us. Is it slowing down? Not really, and just kind of flicks up into the fence. Absolutely crazy. I can understand why it took them a while to kind of get him out of the car and make that happen. And then were you? There's been lots of chat now of wow, Halo saved at least 3 lives. It seems like a bit of a no-brainer now, doesn't it?
Man, I'm going to have to be the dissenting voice. Look, the thing is, maybe it did. Yes, of course. There is a tendency for commentators to just jump in and be like, the Halo got touched, therefore saved his life. Without it, he'd be dead. I just don't know. I don't know either way. I haven't seen the data, so I don't know. You'd obviously be more grateful that it was there than not. Also, just recently had the anniversary of Jules Bianchi, he's passing. And I mean, if there's any, if there's any doubt, you could just be like, well, we lost the guy that day. So maybe let's just move on from it. Let's just say we want it there. We're glad it's there. He's incredibly glad it's there. Yeah. Don't even want to think about it if it wasn't there. Just don't want to even really think about it.
Should we move into the next thing then that's kind of related, which is...
I think it leads nicely into it. So, yeah, why don't you get us there?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, we didn't get to see this footage until much later because we weren't being shown replays of anything kind of Jew car crash related. I don't know, I'm having trouble today. Just maybe it's been 3 hours maybe since I've had my coffee. It's fading. And there's this great footage of, George Russell's got a puncture, I think he's essentially, and he stops on track and he's like, oh my God, that crash is really, really, really bad. And he parks next to the track with his car that's got a puncture and runs over, and he runs over and he's standing on top of the tyre wall and he's like ushering marshals over and he's grabbing stuff and trying to help. I'm like, you've become one less punchableness in my mind, George. Like that's some good work. But in that time, the marshals were like, well, we'll get the truck over there and pick up your car. And he's like, whoa. I was going to drive that car back. Like I was going to hop back in, turn that car back on and drive it back to the pit lane and then keep going in the race. So he was arguing, and Mercedes were arguing with one of the two race directors, which there's been more controversy about that, and all the drivers saying we just need one, but was arguing with one of them like, hey, look, I would have been able to get back. Why can't I restart the race? You're letting kind of everybody else go again. Why can't I just hop back in and have another go? So I somewhat partially agreed with him. What about you?
It's one of those cases where George did all the right, quote unquote, right things. But I mean, unfortunately, I think if your car stops and you get out and leave it, I think you're done. And
you've parked.
I remember seeing some scenes of George standing next to the car or near the crash site, waving his arms around, but it was also like he was surrounded by marshals. And I mean, I don't know, you can call this harsh, by all means, go ahead. But I thought the marshals are there, they're doing their job. If you want to race, go get in the car. If you don't want to race, that's fine. That's cool too. Both options are good. I wouldn't judge anyone for making either choice, but I don't think you can have it kind of both ways. I don't think you can abandon your car and then just come back later and be like, oh, what? No, I was still driving that. That was still good. I mean, look, I would applaud his effort. I think his heart's in the right place. I saw this, actually, there's this meme that's sort of sprung up, which is George Russell is the type of guy, ... Have you seen any of these?
I have seen a couple of these.
I think the Australian Grand Prix account tweeted something like, George Russell's the kind of guy who would say g'day to everybody at the Australian Grand Prix. I took a screenshot of this one, which I like. George Russell is the type of guy who holds the door for you when you're too far down the hall, so you have to awkwardly jog. I was like, that's so true. He's just like, so you're doing the right thing, but also you're making it weird for everybody by doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. So I don't know. Look, George, I doff my hat to you. You're a gentleman. You're a scholar. But I'm afraid that you abandon your car. I just don't know that that's in the rules that you can do that and still race. I just don't know.
Yeah. George would get around in when we weren't particularly doing rounds. We were all just going to buy our drinks.
Yes, exactly.
Now I've got to stay for 4 drinks because he got around in for all 4 of us. Oh, so my turn.
What a guy.
But he's nice. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like, is there another like equivalency? Would it be... surely you've had your food taken away at a restaurant when you're not done, or it's been attempted to be taken away.
I guess that's pretty close, right? Yeah. I was
put your knife and fork down,
like
gone to the bathroom, come back, and it's gone.
I hate that one, especially when you've got a drink and it's got ice cubes in it, and you know that there's still drink in there, but someone comes along and just assumes that's just melting ice cubes and water, so I'll take that. Like, nah, mate, I'm not done. And then you've got to be the guy who looks like a desperate alcoholic. Like, don't take my drink. Don't make me the bad guy here. I bought this thing and I intend to drink it.
I'm going to take this glass home with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah. Well, look, we're glad everyone's okay. Yes. I wouldn't mind it if, George Russell was coming up to alert the authorities who are already there to continue. Maybe he was asking for one specific thing. Maybe he was like, get the stretcher over, or like, what we need is the big crane thing to flip it over.
I could totally understand if there was no one around and George was like, fuck, if no one goes over there, who knows what's going to happen? Like, every second could count here. I might be the guy that makes the difference. That would be one thing. When he's surrounded by marshals, I feel like just let them do their job.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Surrounded by forgetting sheriff marshals. Yeah. I know.
Exactly. Anyway,
Right,
I don't know. It's harsh, but you made your choice. People who made their choice at the Austrian Grand Prix, the Dutch fans, Zach, the Dutchies, past the
Not all of
Dutchies
them,
on the
just some bad ones.
right wing side. Now there was so this was quite widely reported. A selection, a cross section of the fans. We're saying Dutch fans at the Austrian Grand Prix. Maybe they were Austrians, I don't know. But there was a huge Dutch contingent. There always is. But a lot of bad behaviour going on. We're talking about misogyny, racism, you name it. Everything was coming out. So not a good look. Widely reported. Lots of reports on Twitter, bad behaviour. Lots of drivers weighing in, but mostly weighing in, saying, really don't like this and really wish that everyone would just chill out. And if you're going to be a tool, just maybe don't follow my sport or whatever. But I hate to see it. I absolutely hate to see it.
We hate to see it as well with the sport kind of engaging a new generation of fans and who, our sport should be a safe space for all fans, especially those, not just especially, but especially and specifically for people who are going to the race. Like that's as close as you can get to Formula One, and it should be this massive, positive, inclusive vibe. It's always tricky when you've got a large contingent of fans who can essentially take over an entire section of a Grand Prix track or a stadium or anything like that. If anybody's ever been to like a bar before a football game and there's just only Collingwood fans there, and you can kind of feel a bit like, oh, actually, but I'm not a Collingwood fan. These people seem real rough.
The vibe, it's so bad. But
those 60,000 Dutch fans don't own that track. They're just massive contingent with flares and all orange, and that kind of mob mentality can kind of take over a bit, which is very, very, very disappointing. And what you hope is that fans will condemn each other. Or condemn activity. Especially men should be looking at other men and saying,
yes,
no, that's not okay. You shouldn't be doing that. It's not up to any victims of this abuse to have to stand up for it. It should be stand up against it. It should be you as somebody. If somebody's doing one of you, because there's always somebody had to have their friends there who were doing it. It was someone's friend, someone's colleague, somebody like that. So just tell them to shut up or tell them that's not okay. And so hopefully Formula One will be doing more to make this a safe space. There's the continual kind of, well, whose responsibility is it? Formula One, but at the same time, they don't own any tracks or any events. They work with race promoters who, it's up to, well, Red Bull and their Red Bull ring at this point to make sure that fans feel safe and included and all that kind of stuff. So, tricky one, but something that the sport needs to be doing much better on.
Not really helped, I would say, by Red Bull's decision not to drop that driver who was found to be using racial slurs in the online streams. Not to, he got dropped from his test position or something with the senior team, but not dropped from the driving program. And then they didn't come out necessarily very strongly and condone other things that had happened. So it's not a good look. There's a bit of a smell around Red Bull at the moment generally, so we'll see how that plays out. It may fade away like an orange flare in the crowd, or it may hang around. I hope it doesn't. And let's just hope that everybody just does what they can to look after each other. Absolutely endorse your call there to just, if you see something, say something. And,
I was just going to say, sorry, I was like, who was that Red Bull driver? So, Red Bull terminated Yuri Vips's contract after he allegedly made racist comments during an online game. But there was another driver. That's right. He was he was suspended first, and then they terminated his contract. They didn't immediately take that kind of strong effect. But he's kept his Formula 2 seat.
Yes, he's kept his spot with whatever that team is. But my understanding is that he's still part of the Red Bull driving program. But I might be wrong. He's
only been suspended through the driver program, but hasn't been completely pushed on that. But they did they say? From the team High Tech, their chief said. Oliver Oakes said this would look. These are interesting comments. I think they're bad comments, but he was basically said, we live in a society where no one can make a mistake. They then genuinely apologise. Should they not have the chance for redemption and learn from it? I suppose that that's too broad of a brush to paint that situation, I think. So, no, I don't necessarily agree with that. But, yeah, very tricky.
Yeah,
and
anyway.
Red Bull constantly not doing... they have a bad brand around this, right? Helmut Marko made some comments about... in an interview he went through just recently, like every single driver who'd been through the program, and I think he called someone a pansy or weak or all of those kinds of things. Or drivers looking out for, like, getting... mental health help, those kinds of things, like, they're a bit weak. It's like, okay, just reinforcing these like toxic stereotypes about what a Formula One driver should be like. Cool. Yeah, just not a good guy, Helmut Marko. Unfortunately, I still think he's just. I don't really understand why Red Bull feel like he still needs to be involved in that team. But
history, I guess. Let's rule a line under that. Let's move into some better vibes. Let's talk about some racing. We've had 3 races, 3 different winners by the names of Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and good old Carlos Sainz Jr.
Oh, yeah.
Not senior. It was junior.
Remember when we had to talk about all races?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was a real moment. But the thing that I took away from the last few races was Sainz taking pole and winning. Good on him. And then really behaving like incredibly, not behaving badly, but taking it badly when he had to retire in Austria, as if he'd been just personally insulted, which I guess it is. But at the same time, it's like you won one race. You just because you've retired, you can't act as if the world is caving in. It's one race that you've retired from with reliability. I know he's had other bad luck, but it's like you're not really in the championship sort of battle. You're not in the main 2. I don't think you're even in the top 3. On the back of winning a race, it is bad luck, but at the same time, I think he overdid it a bit. That was my takeaway from that.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think he did overdo it a little bit. He's only 5 points in front of Russell, and he's still 18 points behind Perez. So, look, that could turn around very quickly. Sainz wins another race. He's suddenly in the fight for third. And look, there's quite a lot of races to go. It does seem like it feels just like feast or famine with Red Bull and Ferrari right now. Like we're getting a bit of battling at the front, which is pretty good. I mean, down the field, we're getting incredible, like 5 cars going into...
Oh, that's ridiculous. So good.
We can talk a little bit about that in a sec, I think, because there's a wider point about the kind of distance that Red Bull and Ferrari and then Mercedes are kind of putting between them and everybody else. But specifically on Ferrari, they're not just having mechanical failures that are like, we'll have to struggle through it. That just is every weekend. There's something they have to do a whole list, like completely rework a part of the car, like swap something out, swap out a gearbox, like something huge. They just can't have a clean, straightforward race weekend. And it did show these last couple of races that when they do put things together, they are maybe not I don't know, combined, like Leclerc and Sainz with that car on a good day, I think they are the best team right now. But it only works kind of in combination, everything at once. Whereas Max Verstappen just needs to have like a good day and a half and he can win those races.
Yes.
So
that's the thing.
It's going to be very tricky.
That Red Bull and that Verstappen at 85% power is still seemingly matching Sainz and Carlos and Leclerc in the Ferrari seemingly at full power on certain tracks as well, because I think, wasn't it Australia that Leclerc did very well and just romped it home to victory? And then you go to Austria and then he overtakes Verstappen 3 times. Really likes tracks that start with Austria, and then that seems to be like, can we rename all the other tracks? What about Austria Miami? Can we change it to Austria Spa? Because he needs a few more races like that. He needs a few more tracks that suit him. Good strategy, really good strategy in Austria, you'd have to say. Drove over the top of Verstappen in his home race. Absolutely made him look like a fool. These are the kind of races that I was thinking that if Sainz had a few more of those, if Leclerc had a few more of those and a bit more luck, he'd be neck and neck with Verstappen. But I think as it is, Verstappen has shown enough pace. He's got the skill, obviously, the natural skill. The team's behind him, focused on getting him the results. I still say it's Verstappen's one to win, unless Mercedes comes from out of nowhere and drives over the top of everybody for the next 11 races.
Just turns up next race with a new car.
Really see that happen. If you ask Toto Wolff whether that could happen, he'll say, yeah, absolutely, it could happen. Something tells me that's not going to happen.
Toto's playing an absolute balancing act of like, look, we're making good strides, but also don't expect us to win ever. It's like, okay, well, but it might happen.
I remember
I think
he
you're right.
said something like, we have halved the gap between us and Red Bull and Ferrari. I was like, look, good on you. Well done. Come back when you're level with them, genuinely winning on pace, not lucking into some good strategy and a bit of pace at one race. Like one race does not a championship make.
No. Zeno's paradox. If he continues to halve the distance between him and the leaders, he'll never catch them.
The gap just keeps getting smaller
and smaller. Getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And,
Any other team you want to talk about besides the main three? We love to look beyond the main three sometimes.
Yeah, I would say that at least we're starting to see a little bit more from Mick Schumacher. He's had some points. He's looked quicker.
He seems to be coming
putting
good.
It together. He's stringing it together okay. Which I think it does help as well when the team's just that little bit better enough that it's not just all about like, oh, God, look, he's come last again or second last. Or
we might have a look at fantasy a little bit later, but I've sneakily swapped out Magnussen for Mick. I put Mickey in instead.
You've made the
good
switch.
Value, but I made this. I did it. I bloody did the switch. I just said, Rod, you got to be brave, make the big calls, get K-Mag out of there, get Mick Shimicky in.
Get Mick Shimicky in. I think it's a good step. I've been harsh on him in the past because he's the prince, right? He's the guy in waiting. He's the one who's it's all in front of him. But at the same time,
I think
we haven't really seen it. But
I think he drove circles. He drove circles around Mazepin. But having said that, Mazepin was often driving in circles anyway, so that's part of that. And then also, I think K-Mag coming in cold and then showing Schumacher how it's truly done. I think that you were right to be like, not so sure about this guy. But I think he's coming good. I think the confidence is there, bit of performance coming through. He's going to come right. Got a feeling.
Well, do you want to finish up then? We got the 2 points. I do just want to say a quick note on the cost cap changes, which is hilarious because there's a great quote from Toto Wolff. He's like, look, we've negotiated these changes because none of us can afford to do anything. And inflation is tough.
Yes.
And the way the world is all a bit crap right now.
He was wearing a barrel when he said all these things.
We're so poor. But I love it. His direct quote is, close enough. He's like, it's the increase in the price cap is in the cost cap is not enough for the big teams. Like we're still not going to be able to race at every race, but it's also too much for the small teams in that it's going to make sure that the big teams can still stay out in front and probably extend their leads. So I suppose it's kind of working in that whilst the front 2.5, we say Ferrari, Red Bull, and then Mercedes are playing catch up a bit. They've been 3 and 4 and doing pretty well recently. But then there's literally just everybody else, right? Like if you go through down the driver standings, and it's like as soon as you kind of get past Mercedes, it drops off pretty quickly into a kind of melange milieu of everybody in the kind of between 20 and 60 points. And then if you have a look at the teams as well, it's just like Red Bull on 359, Ferrari on 303, so all to play for there. Then Mercedes on 237, only takes a couple of wins to turn that around, and then suddenly all the way down to McLaren with 81 and Alpine on 81. At least everybody's got points. Williams have 3, so at least they've got some. But yeah, it has meant though, through these races, we are getting absolute barnstorming little sections where you've got 3, 4, 5 drivers all at once. Like there's Alonso, there's Vettel, there's Mick Schumacher, there's Daniel Ricciardo and Lando. They're all fighting over one little spot, and there's Gasly and Tsunoda crashing into each other. It makes for very, very, very good racing. And I think the changes to the way the cars are set up and how balanced everything is working really well.
I would also congratulate the race directors who have done a great job when there's been seemingly at times 2 or 3 different bits of action you have to choose about what you're going to frame up. They've done great jobs, but sometimes it is literally like that. Like, can we split screen this because there's amazing stuff going on at the front, but right behind them, 5 cars wide into a corner. Ridiculous. It's been great racing.
Yep. Really, really, really good. Do you want to drop in a final word on old mate?
I have to. This one, this is the story almost of the year for me. This is such a strange one that there's been a cloud over Daniel Ricciardo for seemingly the last year and a half, until he won that race. And even then, for about a month after that race, he was fine. But after that, it was like, yeah, but what else have you got about his form, his position within McLaren? his future in the sport in doubt, in question. At least even just being questioned is a bad sign in itself. And then the news came out. It was announced by him saying, everyone's asking questions about what I'm going to be doing. My big announcement is I'm going to stay in Formula One. I've been re-signed with McLaren. I'll be here for a bit longer. And it was like, I mean, this made big news. I don't know about over there, but here it was big news.
Yeah, it did.
All the news shows were covering it. It was like, I was watching a quiz show the other day and there was a question, like, what does Daniel Ricciardo announce that he's going to be doing? And the answer was not leaving Formula One. I was like, wait a second. This guy has no prospects anywhere else. He's lucky to still be at McLaren. They've given him the gift of more time to prove his worth. And is being framed as, thank God Ricciardo's not retiring. I was like,
he's staying. Oh.
Your definition of retiring is different than mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Please
At
get
least
some
Formula
great
One
results,
drivers
Sam.
are generally graciously given the opportunity to retire, not just being canned. When we do find that out, it's like, look, because Grosjean and Magnussen, they both retired, didn't they? They weren't unceremoniously fired from Haas. They retired. But
of their own choosing, they chose to accept the offer to be fired.
Yeah, there's just so much chat about Daniel when there just doesn't need to be. Like, he's having a really rough time. It's just every week it's the same news. Like, I think we're getting there, that McLaren. I think we're going to learn how to drive it, and it's not easy for Lando either. And if I could just put together a good performance, it would be fine. It's just like you're at a middling team with a middling car. Like, that's it. The Mercedes P is not good.
Stop over-talking it, and people won't be disappointed. Yeah. Anyway, exactly. That's all I wanted to mention. I thought it was weird. Cool. I still think it's weird. We'll see how it goes. You ready for a super quiz?
Yeah, man.
Cool. The song will play now then.
We will accept a couple of questions.
Should one only win one? Would one want to have won that one in round one?
Can you repeat the question?
Super quiz, Zach. I've written one. I've got one for you. You ready? You strapped in?
Born ready. I'm strapped in.
I'm turning to, this week, because I'm a nerd. You know I'm a nerd. I'm turning to a book. I'm going to flip the pages. You know?
Whoa,
a
real book?
Legitimately physical book with a hard case and everything. This book is called The Formula One Miscellany, and it's by John White, with a foreword by Sir Sterling Moss, R.I.P. King. No, just kidding. He has some pretty cold takes about women in Formula One. Anyway, I bought this book. It's like a quiz book. It's like a Formula One book, a quiz from I bought it ages ago.
Is what you're saying?
I'm cheating. That's essentially it.
Quizzes. Your super
this
quizzes
book
now.
came out around the same time we started the podcast. So it was 2013, 2014. And when I bought it, I remember thinking, look at this. You could flip to any page. There's a ready-made super quiz just right there. And it's sat on the shelf gathering dust for so long, and I haven't done it. And I'm going through a bit of a cleanup. I'm thinking about getting rid of it. But I thought before I do, let's just dive in the old pages and get a bit of value out of this thing. So I've got a quiz here for you. Ripped directly from the pages of the Formula One Miscellany, but I've got two categories, so you can choose which one you want to do first. Do you want to do fill in the blanks, or do you want to do actually?
Actually, definitely.
Okay, let's do actually. So the way this will work is I'll read you a factoid from the book. You will interrupt me and say actually, and then correct me, okay? Because this book, remember, this is 8 years old or 9 years old.
Okay.
Book, okay. So according to the pages of this book, of course, we all know that Formula One's youngest race winner is Sebastian Vettel, the youngest race winner to win at the age of 21 years and 71 days. And what's that, Zach? You have something you wanted to say?
Actually, Rod, I think you'll find that Max Verstappen is the youngest Formula One race winner.
At 18 years, 100...
right.
18 years, 134
years.
days is what you were going to say. Thank
Yeah,
you for correcting me, though. I'm glad you actually me. Actually, that's usually that's a rude thing to do, but I'm glad you did in this case because I was a bit wrong.
I think you'll find that it's the nicest thing I can do.
Oh, that's true, actually. I've just noticed on this other page here, what it says here, New Zealand driver Chris Amon is Formula One's unluckiest driver, having driven for almost 100 races, led for over 180 laps, but never won a single race. All those races, but never won a single race. What's that, Zach? What's that? What now?
Actually, I think you'll find that... Romain Grosjean raced all those races and never won one, and same with Nico Hülkenberg, never even got on the podium.
I think Romain Grosjean did win a couple of races here and there, but
Fuck no.
I don't know. But either way, the answer I was looking for, I was looking for was Nico Hülkenberg. It makes his Wikipedia is grim reading. I'll tell you, 184 events, 181. I don't know.
No, he never won. Oh no, IndyCar. No, he never won in Formula One either.
Nico Hülkenberg, 184 events, 181 race starts, championships 0, race wins 0, podiums Zach 0. Oh well.
Yeah, Grosjean had 181 entries and never won a race, but he had 10 podiums So
There you go, 10 podiums. I knew there was something about... Oh, I know how I remember that. McGinley, me,
Yes.
Romain Grosjean, all share the same birthday. 10 F1 podiums between us.
and no
Pretty
race
good
wins.
stats. Pretty good stat. Well, I'm working on it. So anyway, back to this book. I'm just perusing these pages here. Oh, look, so it says here, 2002 Brazilian Grand Prix, Pelé forgot to wave the checkered flag, making him the last famous person to stuff up waving of a flag. Zach, sorry, what would you say that again?
Oh, wait a second. Who was the last famous person to really stuff up waving a flag?
This is a hard one, but I mean, it's got to be interesting.
Feel like Serena Williams didn't do a great job. Did she wave a flag?
She didn't do a great job.
I think she did a fine job. Let's Google.
Like, you're all around it. You're all around it. That's pretty...
Yeah, what have you got?
Like, I'd give you half a point.
What was a really famous one?
At the 2018 Canadian Grand Prix, Winnie Harlow, model and friend of Lewis Hamilton, waved the flag one lap too early. Whoopsie-doopsie.
Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm giving Serena a bad name. I'm sure she waved it fine. It's just
I'm sure she did a fine job.
It's windy sometimes. It can be hard to get it going. If you look, the first thing is, did you do it on the correct lap? Then you're fine.
I mean, that's really the one thing you've got to do. And as long as you do that, you're okay. We'll quickly wrap it up with fill in the blanks. I got 3 more questions. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Question the 1, 2, 3. This is where, like in this book, Formula One Miscellany, it's like little factoids, and they have a little heading. So I'm going to read the heading. You're going to fill in the blanks as goes the titular name of the quiz. So fill in the blank, Zach. Nelson Piquet almost has blank in his car.
Wank in his car? No. Almost has what in his car? Almost has sleep in his car? No.
Almost has what? Sleep?
Yeah, in his car. It was boring, but not too boring. Nelson Piquet almost has
I'll say you were close to the first guess with your joke guess.
okay, water in his car. He almost has a wee in his car.
The quote was, Nelson Piquet almost has orgasm in his car.
No.
It's one of those, this could also qualify as, oops, you took a joke and wrote it as if it was news. Nigel Mansell was easily winning the Canadian Grand Prix. On the final lap, Nigel Mansell retired, handing victory to Nelson Piquet. And he said, when they told me that on the radio that Mansell had retired, I laughed a lot and I almost had an orgasm. Good on you.
Okay, so I was right.
Yes, let's just say you were right.
Basically.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Okay, question the number 2. Blank on the podium.
Blank on the podium.
It's not orgasm or wank or pee or any of those gutter things that you're thinking of.
No, none of the garbage, childish things I was thinking. Something on the podium. I'm going to say death on the podium.
Oh, you're so close, surprising. The quote
Heart
was
attack
ghost. Ghost on the podium. Another case of probably overselling it a little bit. The Brazilian Grand Prix 1983, Keke Rosberg's car caught on fire. Topical with all the marshal talk. Keke Rosberg's car catches on fire. The marshals put it out. He jumps out. They put out the fire. He jumps back in, gets him to push him. He takes off and wins he doesn't win the race. He comes second. And then the FIA later says, sorry, you're disqualified. Can't go on the podium. So the other 2 went up, but he did not. Not really a ghost on the podium, is it? It's sort of just 2 people and then no one else. Anyway, well, I oversold that one a little bit, but still, you were very close. I'm very impressed. One last one to wrap it up. Here's the heading. You fill in the blank. Massa, the eternal blank. Keep it clean. He might be listening.
He's the eternal blank. Yes.
Yeah. The joke writes itself.
Massa, the eternal bridesmaid.
Absolutely. The eternal bridesmaid. Why? Because all of his teammates were world champions like Jacques Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher, Kimi Räikkönen, Fernando Alonso, all of them winners. Unlike him, are very close, but never quite there.
Are we just going to are we just going to glaze over the fact that I just got that right out of nothing?
Yeah.
That's pretty good, I thought. I played that off pretty smoothly, and you're like, yeah, exactly. I was like, come on, I've just guessed a word from a book.
I have a lot of reading to do, and I was just in reading mode. But yes, I mean, those fill in the blanks, very close on 2, amazingly, and then nailed the last one. Mate, have you been eating your Weet-Bix? Maybe it should be 40 degrees over there every day.
Yeah, exactly right. No,
is that better? You feel pumped up now?
Biscuit's called the Pickup. I love a Pickup biscuit. It's got like a little bit of Kinder chocolate style in the middle between 2 yummy, like teddy bear biscuit style biscuits, just regular biscuits. Oh, yum. Pick up. It really does pick me up.
I'll have to keep a lookout for him.
Do you want to? Should we
quiz
do
done.
a couple of outies? Little.
Yeah,
should we have a quiz? Now that the quiz is done, should we have a squiz at fantasy? I've got the entire league up, but I've just was scrolling to my position where I am, Zero Engineering. I'm in 43rd. And you never guess who's straight behind me. So True Racing in 44th with 1,268 points. We are currently 19 points separated. We're in 43rd and 44th.
Zowie. Can't believe that. So that means I've actually I've maybe done a bit better recently. You've done maybe not so well recently, because I remember you were pushing right up there.
I just dropped a couple of spots, but yeah, I could
Can
make some corrections to my team.
Make any changes, and what changes will you make?
I don't think I can make any changes. Let me check my team. I have 3 changes used, 1 out of 6. I can make a lot of changes, it turns out. Yeah.
I've been saving mine. I tend to, I used to make I used to change the entire thing for the first 5 races in a row. Just clean slate, get rid of everybody, start again.
Too much.
What I did instead was set it and forget it until the midway point, around now. And just slipping in a few little changes there. But obviously I did pretty well.
I think I need to drop AlphaTauri. I think that's what I'm going to do, because they crash into each other. Anyway, I've got the top 3 here, Rod. In third place, Suck My Housemate, who's up 2 positions from Racing Team Flurg. Only 1 point in front of Total Control Racing by Mal Ross. Oof. 1 point between them. So all to play for there, as they say. Why can't I beat my bro? Well, unless your bro is Tim T. Brown at Leclerc Dynamics, you basically are beating your bro, Emerson Susan O'Donnell, on 1,618 points. And as I said, Team Leclerc Dynamics of Tim T. Brown currently leading on 1,646 points. That is some quick maths there from me, 28 points to the good.
That was quick.
Nice work. Nice work by all, but especially those 3.
So there's definitely time to go. There's still 11 races. I always used to think, when I was playing basketball or something and it got to halftime, we were getting thrashed. I always used to think there's enough time left for us to thrash them back, and we might finish level here. You know what I mean? So there's been 11 races gone, but mate, there's still 11 to come. So put those hot tips in.
Got all the time in the world. Don't worry about it. And it's I was just scrolling down the points tallies there. It's so close from between 5th and 7th. They are covered by 4 points, 5 points. So yeah, it's close. Everybody in the 1500s, which is a lot of you, all the way down to 9th. It's really, really, really close. So make a couple of tweaks, a couple of changes, get an inside track, see if Ted Kravitz can tweet Ted Kravitz and see if he can give you any tips.
Ask Tom Cruise who he wants to win, and then back that person for 3rd.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Exactly right. And he'll be like, it's like a win. It's like, if it doesn't give me the points, Tommy. It doesn't give me the points.
Tom Cruise, I'll tell you this about Tom Cruise. Top Gun Mavericks is his highest grossing film of his career.
Yeah, it's gross.
And can you believe, at the age of only 146 years old, that he's had the highest grossing film of his career? That's incredible. I don't know how old he is. He's pretty old, 60, something like that.
That post-COVID, I mean, we're not post-COVID, but in lots of people's minds we are, that people actually went and they were like, big film. Amber and I last weekend were like, what do we should go see a movie because it's so hot. And we looked down and I was just like, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing to see. It's they're all just on Netflix, mate. It's got to watch more.
Well, the problem is we're in that window now of no movies were getting made a year and a half ago. Everything's shut down, so there's no movies to now go. There's no movies to now come out. You know what I mean? Yeah,
and unless you're into more Marvel films, which I'm not anymore.
Really? Yeah, I'm so over it.
I'm done.
I'm just not interested. When they're talking about this is the 4th of Thor's side movies, I'm like, oh man, I haven't even seen any of them, and I'm not going to watch 20 hours of Thor just to catch up and understand this one.
Exactly.
Unbloody likely. Well, look, what a good note that we're going out on. Can we pick this one up? How about we try this? We've got a couple of races coming. It's a race week, French Grand Prix coming up, and then just 2 weeks after that is the Hungarian Grand Prix. Then we get a little mini break, they call the summer break.
We get the mid-season break.
I guess we'll probably try and do another episode like this that covers those 2 races.
Back to back.
I don't know. I've got here, 24th of July and then 31st of July. There you go. So we'll be back after those races to cover them. How about that? Yeah. And then maybe we'll do a little bit of catching up on the old Dare to Swear, something like that. But if you want to make sure you don't miss anything, of course you want to stay subscribed in the podcast app of choice. But you can always find us on superlicense.fm. The FM stands for Zach.
Formula melting here, mate.
Fucking
it's so
melting.
hot.
That's right. We will be back soon with more. You want to follow us on Twitter or at Superlicense. The website is superlicense.fm. You can follow us in the Discord if you want to jump in there and say hello and have a chat. You can listen to us record the show if you really feel like it. Don't forget to, if you're a Patreon member, you get the quick, dirty Zach Priest edit of these shows. No editing, no songs, just immediate, raw Formula One talk coming straight at you before everybody else. So if you like to feel superior to other people, you can drop in there. I think it's as little as $1 a month. Can you believe it?
As little as $1 a month.
Yeah.
You could save our Formula Men lives.
Well, you keep the lights on here. You keep the podcast servers humming. You just keep everything bloody rolling. I don't know. Maybe we'll design a new shirt or some stickers or something later and do a little giveaway, something like that. How about that? That'd be some good cheer. We've got to spread some good
Design
vibes.
a new show.
There you go.
Do that.
Design a new show. Oh, hey, here's the thing. It's time for plug, Zach. What are you going to plug? You going to plug anything?
What am I going to plug?
What are you going to plug?
Got nothing to plug.
Nothing to plug. Oh, that's too bad. I'll take your turn then. Have you ever heard of the band Tom Tom Club? Wouldn't you love to listen to a Formula One? Wouldn't you love to listen to a Talking Heads podcast that explains all about Tom Tom Club? I bloody interviewed one of the members, mate. So go and check out This Must Be Talking Heads, my other side show. And other than that, I don't know. The band Cheek Face, I like them. They're really good. Go and check out Cheek Face.
Cheek Face.
Yeah,
haven't
go and
heard
give them a spin.
Cool. And if you haven't watched any Grand Design, season 15 is pretty good. So
That's the one. That's the one that
that's the one
unlocks.
to watch.
You don't. Do I have to watch the first 14 seasons or no?
Yeah, to fully understand the vibe of...
To get the lore.
No, they're modest designs before season 15. That's when it really becomes Grand Designs.
Well, this is what they were working on this whole time. Mate, it's been bloody good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you, mate.
And thanks for listening, everybody. Anything else to wrap us up on, Zach?
No, that's it.
Beautiful. Well, we'll see you in a couple of weeks after the racing. Enjoy the race week. And until then, my name's been Rod.
My name's been Zach.
See you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.